The Jeep rattled over the dirt road, its headlights cutting through the last slivers of daylight. Branches clawed at the sides, dry twigs snapping beneath the tires like brittle bones. The deeper they drove, the more the world behind them seemed to fall away. No houses, no cell service, no trace of the town they had left an hour ago. Jason leaned over the wheel with a grin, tapping the steering wheel in rhythm with the music blasting from the half-broken speakers. "Told you," he shouted over the thrum of bass. "Perfect spot. No parents, no cops, no rules." Tyler, lounging in the passenger seat with his cap backwards and a can of soda balanced on his knee, smirked. "Or it's where we all get murdered by some redneck with a chainsaw. But hey, that's what the beer for, right?" Laughter rippled through the Jeep. Even Sarah cracked a smile, though she rolled her eyes. "You're such an idiot, Tyler." In the back, Mia shifted uncomfortably, her forehead resting against the cold glass of the window. She watched as the forest swallowed the road behind them, shadows thickening between the towering oaks and pines. There was something wrong about this place, though she couldn't put words to it. The air seemed heavier here, like the trees leaned closer than they should. Claire sat beside her, clutching her backpack to her chest, lips moving silently, praying again. She always prayed when nervous, though she'd never admit it to the group. Daniel sat on Mia's other side, quiet, eyes fixed forward. He was always like that, calm, unreadable, but Mia noticed the faint tension in his jaw. The Jeep lurched to a stop. "This is it." Jason killed the engine and hopped out, stretching his arms as if he owned the woods. Ahead, the road ended in a small clearing, grass tall and wild, ringed by trees that seemed older than time, a good distance from anything. Tyler whistled. "Damn, dude, you weren't kidding. Place is creepy as hell." "That's the point." Jason smirked, already unloading gear from the back. They spilled out into the clearing, the six of them. Tents, sleeping bags, a cooler stuffed with beer and snacks. The sun dipped low, streaking the horizon with blood-red light that bled into the dark treetops. "This doesn't feel right," Mia said softly, more to herself than anyone. Daniel glanced at her. "You okay?" "Yeah, just," she hesitated. The silence pressed on her ears. No birds, no insects, no sound except their footsteps and the rustle of bags. "It's quiet." "Exactly," Jason said, overhearing. He dropped a bundle of firewood in the center of the clearing. "No neighbors to complain when we get loud." But as the shadows stretched long and the first whisper of night settled over Ashwood Hollow, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something was already listening. Something patient. Something waiting. The fire cracked to life just as night settled over the clearing. Jason knelt beside the pit, coaxing the flames higher with a grin of triumph, his face flushed from the heat and the beer already working through his system. "There we go," he said, brushing ash from his hands. "Our own little hearth in the middle of nowhere." The others settled around the flames, the night pressing in against them. Darkness came fast here, swallowing the clearing, the forest beyond reduced to a wall of blackness. The fire's glow seemed small, fragile, like it was fighting not to be snuffed out. Tyler popped open another can, foam spilling onto his jeans. "All right, who's ready for some ghost stories?" "Oh God," Sarah groaned, hugging her knees. "Really, we're doing this?" "Of course we're doing this," Jason said, leaning back on his elbows. The firelight flickered across his grin. "It's tradition. Campfire, beer, scary stories. What's the point of coming out here if we don't freak ourselves out?" Claire shook her head quickly. "I don't want to." "You'll live," Tyler interrupted, tossing a pinecone into the fire where it hissed and popped. "Better than you praying under your breath all night." Her cheeks flushed, but she didn't reply. Mia sipped her drink, trying to ignore the way the forest seemed to be watching. Every time she glanced at the trees, she expected to see something between the trunks. She kept telling herself it was her imagination, the way the shadows moved with the firelight, but her stomach remained tight, knotted. Jason stood suddenly, grabbing the flashlight from his pack. He clicked it on. the beam glaring white against his chin as he held it beneath his face. "Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the legend of Ashwood Hollow." "Oh boy," Sarah muttered. Jason lowered his voice, theatrical. "They say this forest has a hunger, that people wander in and don't come back. Campers, hunters, whole families just gone." Tyler burped loudly. "Yeah, because they realized this place sucks and went home." Jason ignored him, his grin widened. "But the ones who do get found, you don't want to know what they look like, torn apart, skinned, faces missing, like something's collecting them." The fire popped, sending sparks spiraling upward. Claire whimpered softly. Mia swallowed, her throat dry. Jason's story was stupid, campfire fluff, but the words sank into her bones, faces missing. Jason stepped closer to the fire, flashlight beam catching his eyes. "They say there's something in the hollow, something that waits for people to light a fire, because that's what calls it. The fire is an invitation, a beacon." "All right, that's enough." Sarah tossed a twig at him. "You sound like a 10-year-old." Jason laughed and sat back down. But the story had worked. Claire's face was pale, Tyler had fallen quiet, and even Daniel's jaw was set tighter than usual. The flames roared higher, sparks dancing like fireflies. And as Mia stared past them into the tree line, she thought, just for a second, she saw something standing there. Tall, thin, motionless. When she blinked, it was gone. The fire hissed, and the forest swallowed the silence whole. The night deepened. Above the clearing, the stars burned sharp and cold, untouched by the haze of the town's streetlights. The fire snapped and hissed, its glow pressing the darkness back just enough to carve out a small circle of safety. Beyond that circle, the trees stood like watchmen, black, silent, endless. Tyler had taken to shadow puppets, holding his hands close to the flames to make crude shapes that flickered against the trunks. "See, that's a rabbit. And this?" He twisted his fingers together, contorting them until the silhouette on the trees resembled something with horns. "That's Jason's mom." Laughter broke out, sharp and welcome against the hush of the woods. Even Sarah chuckled, though she shook her head. Jason threw an empty beer can at Tyler, who ducked and raised both hands in mock surrender. Claire didn't laugh. She sat rigid, legs tucked beneath her, whispering words no one bothered to make out. Her knuckles shone white against the straps of her backpack. "Lighten up, Claire," Jason said. His tone was teasing, but there was an edge to it, the way there always was when he saw weakness. "You're acting like the boogeyman's gonna crawl out of the trees and eat us." Her eyes darted toward the forest. She didn't answer. Mia spoke up before Jason could press further. "You guys ever notice how quiet it is?" Her voice felt strange in her throat, too loud in the space between fire crackles. Like no crickets, no owls, just nothing. For a moment no one responded. Then Sarah cleared her throat. "It's fall. Animals move differently this time of year. It's normal." "Sure," Mia said softly, though she wasn't convinced. Daniel finally stirred. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his eyes fixed on the tree line. "Still feels weird. Usually you'd hear something." Jason waved them off, digging another beer out of the cooler. "Paranoid, that's all. You start thinking about ghosts and monsters, and suddenly every sound is a demon in the bushes." But there were no sounds. That was the point. The silence pressed in until Tyler broke it again, loudly belching to make Claire wince. "See, nature calls." They drifted into smaller conversations after that. Sarah recounted a horror movie she swore was the only good one she'd ever seen. Daniel nodded along. Tyler kept cracking jokes, and Jason laughed too loudly at all of them. But Mia couldn't settle. Her eyes kept sliding to the dark beyond the firelight. The shadows didn't seem still. They bent, shifted, shapes moving where there shouldn't be movement. Once she was sure she saw a face between two trees, a pale oval, features swallowed in the dark, but when she blinked it was gone. The fire guttered for a moment as though a wind had blown through, but the trees stood still. No breeze. The flames rose again. Sparks shot upward, and the shadows on the trunks didn't quite match the people sitting around the fire. There were too many. Mia froze, breath snagging in her chest. When she blinked again, the extras were gone. Only the 6 of them remained, huddled close to the fire in the silence of Ashwood Hollow. But she couldn't shake the feeling that, somewhere just beyond the circle of light, something else was sitting with them, watching.